good evening, y'all. We are back with another episode of the Glimmer cast, and I'm joined by Devin from Olde Nerdcast. What's up, Devin? How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, we got to see the kitty.
Hold on. Yes.
She's right here.
Oh.
Calico kitty.
Yep.
Oh, kisses. Oh.
She's so climbing around on my lap.
That is amazing. Thank you for the cat footage. Much appreciate it. And yeah, Max, I know you just finished the episode as well. How are you doing?
Good. Sorry, I'm not on camera. I'm being lazy. I don't have my kitty and my dogs are in bed because I got to keep it quiet enough where they don't interrupt the stream.
It's all good. Yes, I know. Callie likes to make cameos during streams, so hopefully we can get like a good maybe like 45 to an hour long discussion or so. I know it's really late, but yeah, we're gonna be joined by Hanz and ZodWriter
awesome.
as soon as they're ready to hop on. And I also sent the link out to a few other folks too who would like to join. So I'll go ahead and say hey to folks in the chat. What's up, Geek Studios and Alfred Berger? What's up? What's up, She-Lion? What's up, She-Lion? Good to see you, Jade. And yes, streaming late. I know. Just fresh off of watching episode 4 of Rings of Power. And what's up, H-Bar?
Rings of Power. I like how you said that.
Yeah. Power, yes. What's up, H-Bar? It's good to see you. Keep it secret. Keep it safe. What's up, just another viewer? Yes, thank you so much for the support. And 1000 Star over on Twitch. Good to see you as well, my guy. Hope you're doing well. And PKL, hey Ray, great to see you streaming once more. Hope you're doing well. Happy. Thank you so much, PKL. Hope you're doing great too and enjoying the show. Yeah, Hanz is tonight's lore keeper. Yes, I definitely want to hear what he has to say because like I was gone for for a minute while the show premiered, so I didn't get a chance to talk about this with anyone really in depth. And Madman in the panel, yes, yeah. Absolutely. And I do have my jazzy background music, so just keep me posted if it's like if it's too loud. But no, yeah,
I feel calm.
Awesome. Yes, so interestingly enough, episode 4 I felt was a nice little like I guess midpoint to kind of like cap off our discussion because it kind of ended on what I would consider like a high note where it was sort of like iffy if there was going to be any sort of truce made between the humans and Galadriel on Numenor. But before we get into like those like finer details, I want to go around the horn and Devin, what are your quick thoughts at this midpoint mark in the season so far for the show?
Are we doing spoilers?
Yes, this is a spoiler stream. I put spoilers in all caps on all the promos for this, so yeah, you're safe.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I like the show a lot. It's definitely a fantasy epic. Like every episode feels like an epic, and it's shot like a movie. So like I'm really enjoying I'm enjoying the pacing of it. Like the action scenes there, we're getting a lot more action scenes in the past couple episodes than the first two, and they're really well done. I like it. It's really cool. And it feels like a Lord of the Rings. It's not like it's just such a different vibe than what I've been used to watching stuff like House of the Dragon or even the original Game of Thrones series or The Witcher, where like the action sequences were always like these really kind of video gamey sort of affairs, and you get some of that in this. But like in the last episode, you had the sequence with the kid in the town that seemed very Lord of the Rings. It was very much so like a hobbit fleeing from orcs and shit. So there's a nice mix that like I think the show's doing a really good job blending together with a compelling story and characters that are developing in really interesting ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I agree that the last 2 episodes definitely had a lot more action in them and a lot more story twists and plot turns that made it more. I think it helped quell a lot of the concerns that some people thought about the first 2 episodes kind of feeling too fillery and not enough compelling scenes on the screen to like keep them engaged. But I know it's not like been a perfect discussion around how this show has been going, so I'll go to Max to get his thoughts on
I'm really enjoying it. I'm missing some stuff. Like because I didn't read the books. I watched the original movies, original trilogy, but it's like this is a type of show that it's good to have a lore friend. Like H Parts is saying, Hanz is tonight's lore keeper, or Devin. Devin, you read the books, right?
No.
Okay, you haven't.
My best friend of like the past 10 or 12 years is a super huge Lord of the Rings fan.
So it's good to have this someone to go to with stuff like what's going on here, and then you appreciate things more. Like it seems like this was developed for. It's not just a trendy, or with the times production. It seems like it's all encompassing all of the books and stuff to have all that hidden depth that you have to search for. You got to like, oh, what's going on here? I don't really understand here. It's great to have someone, a friend that knows a lot about it. Like I'm not sure exactly everything that's going on. The Galadriel, I was starting to sort of get annoyed with her a little bit because she's so impatient. But then they handled it in the story. So like, if everyone's like, oh, she's unlikable, she's so aggressive. But then they handled it with that. I don't even really know who that guy is. Really, I'm not really sure what's going on with that guy. I know
Halbrand, the human.
Yeah, the human. So he kind of handled that in the story. So if there's something, that's what I like when someone's like, oh, this person's unlikable. Well, they actually handled that with the story. You're too aggressive. Take a step back, and you could, and then things started. So I like that she was learning. She's old elf, but she's also learning too. I love all the characters. I love Elrond. Elrond's becoming my favorite, and the dwarves. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to say a quick thing, and
you're all good.
It's kind of like all over the place. It's kind of like all over the place too, because you have so many different storylines going, and I like all of them. The only one I'm like iffy on is like the kid in the hilt, and I know that's where we get Sauron eventually, but I'm like, I don't understand that all. Like, I need Hanz to explain all what's going on there. Like, why was that hilt there? What's this kid doing with it? You know. But
well, at the end of that episode, that old man, like, you know, pretty much gives up that he's like a servant, or at least a admirer or worshiper of Sauron. And you know, from
I didn't miss that, because you know why? Because I was multitasking and I went to go get the rotisserie chicken out of the oven.
Oh, okay.
But that's the one part I missed. So that would have made things clearer for me. See, you can't leave a second of the show and you'll miss something. That makes a lot of sense. That's a big question. So he's an admirer. So that really, it's not just like random that the thing was there. So no,
because remember, those people in the Southlands, they were the ones who were allied with Morgoth in his war years ago, which is why the elves were there kind of monitoring them, because, you know, they see that group of people.
That's why he hid it under the floorboards, and it's his fault.
Yeah.
So I completely missed that, because I know that's the scene where they show on the trailers where he grabs his arm.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that makes a lot of sense then. Thank you, Devin. Thank you.
Anytime.
This is a show I'm going to need to rewatch.
Hey, I mean, I'm not going to, I'll be honest with you, man. Sometimes a rotisserie chicken is more important.
That just reminds me of
Costco rotisserie chicken.
Yeah.
Oh.
That just reminds me of that floating chicken that Merry and Pippin came across at the end of Two Towers, and then they found this hold of, like, you know, of grass and food and all this other stuff, all the comforts of home. But yeah, I did want to kind of like play this trailer that they had on their Twitter while I'm kind of going through my thoughts to kind of like keep me on track. So since I watched episode 1 through 2, I was watching that while I was in New York, and I was compelled to like rewatch it over and over again because I really wanted to absorb as much as I could about the characters, and definitely want to like get down their names. So I'll start with like strongest characters for me personally. I think some standouts for me were Arondir, the elf who is kind of part of the, I guess, army that's watching over the human village that Bronwyn, this mother who also has a son named Theo, who, Max, to your point, has discovered this hilt, or like this broken sword handle that actually is revealed to be, or potentially, belonging to Sauron. So, yeah, that's kind of something that we learn is attracting orc attention to the human villages and compelling all of these human villages to kind of like migrate in, because they're being ransacked and pillaged by the orcs in search of this hilt that belongs to their leader Sauron. Anyway, so those are some standout characters for me, just because I have no pre-existing, interpretations of these characters, and as far as I know, they are created for the story, which I can really appreciate, because I can just, like I said, I appreciate just being able to have this one core set of narrative and visuals to apply to these characters, and no other standards to really hold them against. When it comes to characters that I don't feel I have as much of a strong connection with yet, it's Elrond and Galadriel, because a lot of their, I'll start with Elrond. So Elrond, for me, I feel is one of the weaker characters, only because
Really?
Yeah, in my opinion, this is a hot take. It would be interesting to hear y'all's response
I love
to this.
Elrond.
So like Elrond, he's definitely like very friendly, very down to earth, very like loving and like nurturing. Like he's all of those like positive traits. I think for me though, I wish that he would have he made a promise to his best friend Galadriel that if there's even a whisper of Sauron being around, like he would pursue it for her in her place. But like that did not happen. He just let Gil-galad, the king elf, who also really like pisses me off, because like they talk about like there's still being signs of Sauron's presence, and all the signs of like the comet or the shooting star or whatever that is later revealed as another character we can get into. But like he sees that leaves are like dying and having like black veins drawn in them from like the presence. So there's all these signs that that there's a true threat happening, but Gil-galad is just doing his best to kind of keep it hush-hush.
They're like the Jedi Council in the prequels.
It's so annoying. And then
that's a great analogy, because like Lord of the Rings, the trilogy as we know it, is kind of like a post-apocalypse, and this is kind of the age before that. So in keeping with the Star Wars analogy, this is kind of like the High Republic era of like hubris and not paying attention to like the signs that the enemy has returned, right?
Yeah, it's definitely kind of like a golden age for a lot of people, or even like just the hierarchy's attempts to sustain their current status, while also knowing that in the back of their minds it's going to end at some point.
Look at the world we live in now. People don't pay attention till they have to. It's exactly like real people. They're like, oh, it's not a problem. It's not a problem till it blows up in your face, and you got to deal with it. So I think it's very realistic.
It is frustrating, because it's like a pattern of behavior that I'm seeing with like some other characters that like just for me personally, and the hierarchy characters, like the kings and queens in the show, Gil-galad, Muriel, sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name, the queen of Numenor, and the dwarf king, they all just have their own vested interests to just protect what they have. They don't really like see outside of like they're very isolationist, basically.
Yeah.
Like so, when they are confronted like by Galadriel, who like, except for like the case of the dwarf king, because Elrond is kind of like not really privy to a whole lot of what's happening outside of his task with Celebrimbor, but I'll get to that later. But yeah, Galadriel's kind of like this like, what is that? What I forget, like an analogy for like a fly or something that like won't go away, or I don't know. She's just sort of like this
like a gadfly.
Yeah, is that
I think
an analogy?
That may be a term.
Okay, yeah, she's just like this annoying reminder of like things that the people in power just don't want to deal with. And yeah, like for me, I can appreciate Galadriel as a character, like as far as like her being so compelled to and driven by this like evil surmounting that evil that she knows is coming, basically. But yeah, her lack of tact and lack of like self-awareness and how to read rooms and social skills and etiquette, like that did get annoying for me too, Max, to what you were saying earlier. But I did want to call out that I am seeing that each episode she's learning to like, like I guess better social skills and more like able to bend her ear a little bit more, especially
Elrond's good at it. Like Elrond's pretty good at it.
He is. He's really good at diplomacy, and that's
Yes.
where Galadriel is lacking. And I wish that they would have more time. They would have had more time together to have those skills kind of like cross absorb into one another.
Well, it's interesting because the dude that she's traveling with is good at it.
Yes, Halbrand, who we again, this is spoilers. Halbrand is revealed, or it's strongly suggested that he is a king or heir to the throne of the Southlands, which is the human kingdom that is being sieged by orcs in pursuit of this broken blade that we know other human characters are in possession of. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to clear out that it's like kind of like full circle there. But yeah, I can go ahead and highlight some of the chat really quick and get back to y'all to get your thoughts. H-Bart says, Elendil is the king of Gondor. He dies to Sauron in the opening of Fellowship, and Isildur uses his sword to cut Sauron's finger off. So that's Elendil. Very, I don't have any words right now. Sorry. I was going to say he's like really hot, but yeah, I was going to say it in like a weird way, but like, I already said it in a weird way. It's fine. H-Bart says, Southland is also future Mordor. I didn't know that, H-Barts. Yeah, you could definitely join for the finale. Sorry I couldn't have it on the weekend. I am like really just like trying to get this show on the road. But yeah, thank you for being in the chat. Gil-galad, by the way, is the elf king that we see in episode 1. So Gil-galad is briefly seen in the Fellowship opening, but sadly his death was cut. Yeah, I remember you mentioned that a while back. That was another character that didn't have too many like pre-existing like I guess like description, the things that would influence how I perceive that character in this show. H-Bart says, for anyone or anybody who might not know, Numenor's successor kingdom is Gondor. Okay. Yeah, what's up, Yumiko? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, Devin, yeah, sorry to if I interrupted you earlier.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. I mean, I'm actually kind of impressed that you can just rattle off the names unless you have a
Yeah, I'm like,
like,
I rewatched the episodes a bunch.
I have too, but I'm literally like that. I'm literally like the TikTok where it's like random words, and I'm like, oh yeah, Valafaldriel. That's right.
The Numenor Queen kind of frustrated me too, Rhea, for what you were saying, but they did also explain it where she has this premonition of the future based on that orb. I don't know exactly what that is.
The Palantir?
Yeah, I don't know really what that is.
Yeah, the little orb. Yeah, there it is. It's in the clip.
So they kind of explained it that and her father dying is the reason. But yeah, it seems like that this is a pretty much a that new dark elf guy with the trolls. What'd you think of that?
Adar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you already know the name.
the orcs chant it like over and over again. They kind of semi-worship him.
I miss things. No,
it's all good. I've been loving rewatching this show. Like it's on when I'm like, doing work at home, like in the background, and it's on while I'm doing stuff around the house. So I'm just like absorbing as much as I can while I'm doing other tasks. It's definitely like my comfort show. Like like how the extended editions are my comfort films. This show has become like my comfort show for me.
I like the introduction of another villain just beside Sauron and the orcs.
Yeah, I don't know if he's from anything like I don't recall if he was mentioned in any of the books that I had read. I hadn't read all of them, but I don't know if he's like from an appendix.
Is he a new character or what?
I get the sense he might be a new character.
Oh, but, you mean Adar?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. I was also checking.
It was also cool to see the mithril, finding the mithril in the mine.
Yeah, that was cool too. That was a cool reveal. Yeah. No,
I just
but
love how their Twitter has all these awesome clips I can play. But yeah, go ahead, Devin.
Oh no, I was just saying. I was gonna talk about this last episode a bit. Like, I get what you're saying about Galadriel coming off kind of annoying. Like she's super, super. It's not just that she's super sure of herself, but like in a
Who
very
would ever follow her, even if they
arrogant,
wanted to?
condescending, like just being really obnoxious. And even when people are trying to like help her down her path, like she'll just like bulldoze through whatever type of assistance she's getting to try to get her way. Like I get why like that, how that can come across as like annoying. I'm not necessarily annoyed by the character because like it's kind of to your point, Rhea, about
I didn't really feel that till this episode though. Till this episode, I was like, all right, this is a little overboard.
Yeah, and she was a little bit more extra in this than the prior episodes, but it's kind of to the point where it's like, okay, we get frustrated with the Queen of Numenor because she's stuck in her way and she can't see the danger that's encircling her, and same with the Elf King, and the same thing with the Dwarf King, and we have like a wider view of it because we're watching this show and we know like okay, and we've seen the original trilogy, it takes place after this chronologically speaking, so we know like what this is all about, and we get frustrated when we see them like, oh, why aren't you making the right decision and all that kind of stuff. But like in the context of like the world, the story that's contained within itself, yeah, you would have a situation where a lot of these places hadn't seen warfare in a long time. They've lived in relative peace. They've kind of, become insular societies that are focused solely on just maintaining their own function. And then you have this character who is not only just basically a street preacher for the apocalypse, but also is really annoying in doing it, Like, it's like, yeah, of course. Like, of course they're reacting to her this way. Like, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't any normal person react to her in this way? And Halbert kind of gets it. Like, he understands it way more than she does. And even though he makes weird decisions on his own, too, like, it's an interesting pairing. And I don't know where that's going to end up because it seems like at the end of this episode, no, actually, she did come back. That's right. Oh, hey, Hans.
What's up,
Hello.
Hans?
Sorry
How
I'm
are
late.
you? No
I'm
worries.
good. I like that episode a lot.
Episode 4?
Yes.
Yay!
It was a good one.
Awesome. Yeah, so I went around and asking everyone like their thoughts at this mid-season mark, and I want to get your thoughts first before we get into like, dissecting characters and then episode 4 and spoilers and all this other stuff. This is a full spoiler discussion, by the way.
Awesome. Okay, I think this was a great mid-season episode. I think the rest of the season going forward is gonna feel a lot quicker.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, this episode itself also felt pretty quick. There was a lot going on. I think the only story we didn't get any peek of was the Harfoots. But then even
they weren't in it at all.
Yeah, and they kind of allude to it at the very end. The scene that you missed, Max, when you were getting your rotisserie chicken. Like the old man who was talking to the kid, he mentions like his return, and did you not see the star across the sky and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of alluding to like, oh wait, is the stranger Sauron then? So like it's so even with the Harfoots not in it, they still like give you a little piece. So yeah, there was a lot going on in this episode.
Oh, dude, where we left off at episode 4. Oh, sorry, Hans. Do you have any like maybe like a top 3 of your characters, like either weakest or strongest, that you want to highlight before I get into episode 4?
Elendil.
Yes,
he's
Elendil.
Perfect. He's so perfect. I love him.
Yes.
Sorry, which one's that one again?
That guy that we just showed on the screen.
Oh, the captain.
The hot
captain.
dad dude.
I absolutely love him.
No, he's great.
So perfect. He's like the perfect. I love him, especially knowing his character is. What ends up happening in the show and everything, or in the lore. He's great. Him, I love Elrond. Obviously, Galadriel's great. I think she's starting to learn a little bit.
She's being put in like so many positions where she has to rely on other people for once. Like, she's always been super self-reliant, like, I'm gonna like hunt down Sauron myself, like with a dagger and like no army, and everyone's just like, no.
And even in Fellowship of the Ring, she originally thought there was no hope, and she wasn't gonna really help until I think after she like passed her test with the ring. That's when she decided to help. So it's like it's something that kind of her being more self-reliant, not really wanting to do help or rely on others, kind of carries with her still.
So like getting into episode 4, which I'm playing like some clips from right now, thanks to their awesome Twitter account. Episode 4, Galadriel still kind of is learning that she can't brute force and just like start, to Devin's point, like, you know, like making prophecies of the end of the world and demanding help from people. So she is kind of like put in a position where she's like, first she gets imprisoned, and then after having Halbrand kind of like explain to her, look, like, you've never had to deal with, you know, being diplomatic and in a, you know, position of with hierarchy and stuff like that, you're gonna have to, you know, understand what it is that they're actually concerned with. And once like they uncover together that what really set the queen off to imprison Galadriel, even after she made a bunch of other, you know, offenses against her and the kingdom, it was her bringing up her father, the king, who was like removed from his throne due to his loyalty to the elves. And in this episode, I think there was some, you know, signs of this in the last episode too, where the humans on Numenor like have a like strong, you know, prejudice or like resentment towards the elves because of their because they feel threatened against them.
That elf lover scene. I have a feeling that, you know, people are going to have issues with that. That it's like sort, you know.
It's very accurate. The Numenorians became very jealous of the elves' long life, essentially.
And is that basically how like Numenor basically cut off ties to the elves? Because of that, you know, resentment and jealousy. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, yeah.
For sure. And H. Bart's had an interesting comment. I don't think the stranger is an Ishtari. So you don't think the stranger is? I think that's another word for wizard, right?
Yeah, it's the wizards, and the wizards, the five wizards.
So I was after like episode 2, I was like, yeah, that's got to be either like Gandalf or Saruman. But yeah, that's interesting that H. Bart thinks that that's not really Ishtari. Getting again spoilers for episode 4. In the human stronghold where Bronwyn, Arondir, Theo, like the elf that's shown on the screen, and the humans like running away from the orcs. We're shown Theo, who has the hilt, the broken Sauron blade, and it's revealed that another human, like who was hiding it originally, knows like, you know, exactly like who it belongs to. He mentions Sauron. Like, did you not see the comet? Like, they talk about the arrival of that of the stranger to Earth. So I was just like, oh, is the stranger Sauron? Like, so yeah, I don't know. What do y'all think about that? I don't know. I'm just like, I don't think we've seen any signs of like Sauron's form yet, but I could be wrong. Are there any like strong signs for any given character for y'all that like, oh, this is going to be like a Sauron, or is there like any Sauron red herrings up that y'all noticed?
Halbrand is a red herring for sure.
Okay.
But it's, I don't know. I don't think it's him, just because of what's currently happening in the show and how much time would have to pass for him to actually be Sauron. I don't think there's enough
time. Devin, what about you?
Well, what do you mean by you don't think there's enough time?
I don't think he has enough time to rise up to gain the people's trust before before spoilers happen.
Before spoilers happen. Fair enough.
Let's see. I also wanted to call out Durin, the dwarf prince.
Oh.
So his relationship with Elrond. Max, I wanted to hear more about your thoughts on Elrond and Durin's relationship, because I know you mentioned Elrond is your favorite character so far.
Oh yeah, I like the way he's very expressive in the eyes too. He always knows what's going on. He is very diplomatic. I like the way he figured out what Durin was doing. And Durin still has keeping secrets with his father. The dwarves always have secrets. I love Durin's wife too. What's her name?
Disa.
Disa.
Yeah, they're so much fun. They're even more fun than the Peter Jackson dwarves, like Gimli. Like I love Gimli. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating. I'm not comparing.
I really like the dwarves in The Hobbit. I'm not gonna lie.
No,
I love those guys.
Hobbit too. But these are my new favorite dwarves.
Your favorite dwarves,
okay. I can't. Is it at the end that he's going to go on the adventure with him?
Yeah, he's going to that town, that city, or whatever.
So
they're going to Linden.
Linden, yes.
It's me excited. They're going to go on a little adventure together. See how that goes.
Did you find it interesting that they revealed Mithril this episode?
Yeah. I didn't know what was going on, and then when he said Mithril, I'm like, oh, that means something there with the original trilogy. And what's made out of Mithril in the original trilogy?
Vest,
armor,
that vest
Frodo's
that Frodo had.
Yeah. Anything else made out of Mithril? I can't remember.
They can make anything out of Mithril.
Okay. Did that get you excited, Hans?
Yes.
To be honest, I already kind of figured that was what it was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I had no freaking idea, but I kind of knew it. See, that's why it's great to have a friend around that's really into that.
I mean, no, I loved it though. Like, I thought it was real cool.
I had no idea what was going on in that mind. I was like, okay.
No, so like what I thought was that they were. I didn't necessarily think that they were mining for Mithril, but I did think that they were, continuing to pursue additional valuable resources of some kind, and that they would unearth a Balrog, and maybe like the king dwarf called off or had the mine sealed off after it collapsed, and there were some dwarves that needed to be rescued from it. There was a whole sequence about that, but I thought that maybe the king had some foresight into we're gonna not explore any deeper than that because we're gonna unearth a Balrog or something. But we don't hear that dropped in the show necessarily. But that was what I was thinking, because we know from Fellowship that is basically how that happened in Khazad-dûm. Like the ambition of the dwarves, or like their greed, I should say, was their downfall. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Hans.
Yeah, I'd agree with that completely.
And H-Word says, Hans will agree the only bad thing so far was the Galadriel horse scene. Wait, that was bad for me.
That was weird.
I hated it.
The slow motion horse on the beach?
I hated
it. I hated it.
It's like that was a weird decision, even directorial. Like for all of a sudden, it was a freeze frame. It wasn't like slow motion. It was just like
I just thought it was misplaced. I was like, wait a second. We're burning daylight here on a slow motion horse scene. Like let's cut this slow motion horse scene out and just keep the story going.
It was like the worst
exactly.
pause, too.
But it's fine. Whatever.
You trying
it's
to make things
scene.
easy on the haters online with a
it's
face like
scene.
that, like.
Yeah, I guess for me, I'm a little bit more forgiving of it because I don't recall seeing Galadriel truly happy or free of.
That's her happy face.
I think that's what the point of that scene was too, was to show her her analogous to the freedom of a horse, I suppose. Like she's a wild spirit. She's an untamed stallion. And she has joy when she's in great strides.
Halbrand even made a comparison while they were both held.
Yeah,
you're like a colt. Yeah, you're like a young colt, charging at anything in her path. So, I just wanted to share some clips that I really enjoyed from their Twitter. So, full screen, everybody.
What did you guys think when with the Palantir scenes?
The orb?
Oh, okay. So first, when the queen was having the dream, I was like, obviously, the very first thing I thought before anything even happened, I was like, oh, this is a dream. And then like you see the tidal waves come over the city walls, and it looked unbelievable. That looked awesome. Like
it was incredible. Awesome. I had to pause it.
I said to myself out loud, "Oh shit," you know. And then like it wiped out the city, and I was like, "Okay, so this is what's gonna happen, I guess." And then when she actually reveals the Palantir and she puts her hand on it and sees the vision, I mean, I thought, well, obviously it alludes to, you know, the usage of Palantirs and, you know, future movies and whatnot. But it was just cool. It was just a cool thing to see.
Yeah, the Palantir's like ability to give foresight into the future. I felt like really like scared for the Numenorians. It's like, are you accepting to go fight alongside the elves because you know your city's fucked either way? like forces of nature are going to take it over either way, so you might as well like fight with them? Or do you feel like this is a way to appease the gods or the Valar if you do heed the call to battle?
That's the funny thing about like this entire episode is like, and really this entire sequence in Numenor across the past couple episodes is like it's the whole thing has always been like, oh, the Numenorians don't trust elves, they don't like Galadriel's presence, she's hostile to them, and the queen is hostile back, and she's thrown in jail, and you know she's gonna be exiled, and they're gonna force her back, and they just don't want to help her. There's all this contention against her, against elves, and all that sort of stuff, and it's this whole dramatic thing that eventually leads to them on the dock, and they put her on the boat, and they're like, peace, bitch, get out of here. And like everyone's happy, like they're like, let's go party, like we're gonna make everyone happy by reporting the news. And then like they start walking, and then a couple of leaves from the trees start falling, and then immediately it's like, hey, let's get that elf back over here. All right, thank the elf's back, guys. We're gonna go over there. The fucking queen's going with her. I'm gonna go with them. We're gonna get this elf party going. Everything's gonna be fine. How's that tree doing? Is the tree still wilting? The tree wilting? Tree's doing good, guys. We're going up. We're with the elf. We're all elfed up over here. No more elf exile. It took like 5 minutes for them to go back on like 2 episodes worth of anti-elf rhetoric.
Yes, yeah, that's a really good point. And like I get it, like the tree like petals falling are supposed to represent the tears of the Valar because of the queen's decision, but it's like there could have been more signs, like, you know, subtle, like, you know, falling of the petals throughout, you know, random scenes to give us like some clues, like, you know, oh, this is foreshadowing something happening.
Yeah.
But no, it just all happened at once.
It was instant. And it was all that it took to reverse all of that acrimony.
But yeah, Hans, do you feel like they kind of rushed that sequence to Devin's point, or do you feel like there was some intention behind it? What do you think?
I'm thinking about it now. Really thinking.
I didn't think about it this deep until Devin called it out, because I literally just watched the episode like an hour ago.
I'm not saying it was a bad scenery. It was just it was just a funny moment for me.
Yeah.
It's hard because I can tell you my theory, but it's based on like what I know happens. But it's I don't think all the anti-elf stuff just went away. I think we might see more with that in the next episode. I think this is the mid-season point. I don't think we're going to see anyone from Numenor or Galadriel, any of them, land in Middle-earth until the last episode of the season.
So you think
this is an 8-episode season, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you think they'll just be at sea for the next like 3 episodes?
No, I think we're gonna. I feel like we're gonna stay in Numenor for this season. I feel like the season is about Numenor.
Oh, they're gonna be training on Numenor. Is that what you mean?
I just think
they said in 10 days or something, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
like right
yeah.
now, they're just now starting to gather volunteers or whatever to go with them. So I guess there could be an episode where, you know, kind of like how we didn't get the Harfoots in this one, we didn't get the dwarves in the last episode. Could be an episode where we don't see Numenor stuff.
So as far as let me see, I'm trying to think of what other characters. Oh, I was showing clips from the this advisor character, the Chancellor dude, basically the right hand of the Queen.
Farazan?
Yes, Farazan.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah.
Dude with the beard and the long hair. So basically, like,
wicked sword.
Yeah, he was like rallying people against the elves.
Yeah, so I feel definitely like we're gonna see him kind of lead the revolt at some point, and it's odd too because like I am not sure what his intentions are. Does he want to take over the throne? Like, because he knows that he may potentially know that the king is dying, and then the queen like doesn't. I don't believe she doesn't have a family. So if he like gets rid of both of them, then would he be the next in line? Like, do you think that's the goal?
I don't know if this will change anyone's opinion. It might. The queen, she is the first queen ever of Numenor, of the thousands of years it's been around. So
That's awesome.
that might be something to keep in mind with how he may feel, about a queen. He might have problems with that.
Sprinkle a little House of the Dragon in there.
Yes, yeah, I was just thinking that. I did want to save a small bit of time for us to chat about like our thoughts. I don't want to compare House of the Dragon and Rings of Power, but it has been like this ongoing, comparison online. So we could spend a few minutes doing that. But before that, the advisor dude, yes, H-Barts, to your point, basically the one who dooms Numenor. I feel like, yeah, he has secret ambitions that we're not yet privy to, but it's kind of clear that, he has the ability to win the public's favor. And he
knows everyone's name.
Yes, exactly. That's what his son, his son, who's like trying to get with Elendir's daughter. Like they have that old little like random scene there on Numenor. But anyway, yeah. So that was my suspicion there, and I am just like really, really curious if we're gonna see him in other episodes trying to like sow the seeds of discontent amongst the humans, because it seems that they're easily manipulated, honestly. Like all of us, they hated elves, and now all of a sudden they're volunteering their lives to fight alongside them. So I'm not sure if like we can count on them to have any sort of critical thinking skills.
Well, I think in their culture, it kind of touched on it a bit, how it's basically like half of Numenor does like believe in like the old ways still, and the other half doesn't, but they just kind of they all just kind of go with the flow.
The status
and
quo.
Now that something incredible is happening, the people who are faithful are starting to stand up and be like, hey, we still believe in the old way, we're going to go help. And then the other half who are going to see that and say, wait, we don't want to do this. So I think that's basically just, we're starting to see the divide in Numenor in general.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what's up with Zod. I did give him a link to come through. I know he said that he's running a little late, but yeah, I guess we can chat about Devin, you had a tweet the other day about your enjoyment of Rings of Power versus House of the Dragon, but you were very like cryptic about your thoughts on either one in comparison. I don't know if you already got a chance to dish on your feelings on both shows in comparison, or if you're reserving that for like a video on your channel.
I'm not reserving it for a video. I don't know. I just feel like I don't want to stoke those flames. I like both shows and I'm enjoying them both a lot. Like they're literally the polar opposite shows almost. Like House of the Dragon is like political intrigue and like all of this like salacious character drama, and Rings of Power is much more epic and ethereal and it just feels almost like a Lawrence of Arabia kind of tale, like epic sweeping tale. So like, and it's high fantasy versus dark fantasy. I get a lot of beautiful, bright visuals versus like really dark, gritty, grimy visuals. So like both of those things that I enjoy are being feeded by both of these shows. And I don't know if I prefer one over the other. It just depends on what I'm watching at the time. Sometimes when I'm watching House of the Dragon, I'm like, I think I do like this more than Rings of Power. And then I watch Rings of Power, and I see the waves crashing over Numenor, and I'm like, oh my god, this is the most epic thing I've ever seen. Like, this is fucking awesome. And it just depends on what I'm watching.
Yeah.
I'm happy to compare. I love them both. They're different shows. I feel like the House of Dragons has got like that FOMO watercore. Like you don't want to hear a spoiler, and it's exciting to see it. Oh wow! Oh shit! Oh boy! And then the Rings of Powers, you can meditate on it, and it's really good. I guess they're both good for rewatching. But it's a different experience even rewatching. Like, you already know the surprises if you've seen House of Dragons. But in Rings of Power, you're going to see stuff you didn't see before. And there's a lot of depth there and a lot of backstory, too. And I love them both. Hey, Zod, I'm glad to see you, brother.
Welcome, Zod.
It's so great to see all of you. How are you doing? How you doing, Devin? Good to see you. What's going on, bud? Max and Hanz and Rhea? It's great to see all of you. Wow.
I'm so glad you were able to join us.
How's the discussion been? I'm sorry, I was on a phone call and dealing with an issue. So.
Oh, okay.
No worries. Yeah. So the discussion has been pretty good. We were doing like full spoilers for everyone for episodes 1 through 4 of Rings of Power, and if you want to get into some of your thoughts, concerns about the series up to this point, I would love to hear it. Or we would all love to hear it.
Oh, okay. Well, what I can say about Rings of Power is that overall, I'm disappointed in what they're doing because I don't feel like they have enough material to really build a cohesive story that's based around Tolkien mythology. I get that they're trying to do their own thing, and I'm trying to be supportive of that, but I'm having a hard time with it because I'm not sure where it fits. I'm not sure what they're actually going for. I'm even confused. I was excited to come on here and talk to Hanz because I'm really excited. I'm really confused about what era this is supposed to be in, because to me it's all over the place, and people are, it's like, I don't want to say people are making excuses for it because they want it to be successful, but I feel like when you compare it to, in my opinion, the vastly superior House of the Dragon, you have a serious problem, because House of the Dragon is essentially building off of a mythology which, number one, they have a complete story to go off of. House of the Dragon is a fully completed story with a beginning, middle, and an end from George R.R. Martin. It's not something that, they could take liberties with it, but essentially they've got a blueprint of where to go and what to do. Whereas this, they've got Tolkien's napkins, and they're essentially just trying to go off of, ideas. It's almost like, Max, if you, me, and Rhea were to sit down and we were to just start brainstorming ideas about a podcast where we really don't have any direction of where we're going to go or what we're going to do. We're just scatterbrained all over the place. And we just say, well, we like retro games. We like some modern games. We like Xbox. We like PlayStation. So we're just going to, throw it all in one big pot, and we're going to call it PlayStation Plus Pot. Oh wait, we already did that. But what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is that I'm just kidding, Max. But what I'm saying is that we're at a point where, like, I feel like if they would have had something more complete from Tolkien, a story that they could have fully actualized and realized, I think they would have it would be a much better concept. But on a positive, I will say that I really enjoy the visuals. I think this show has some great eye candy. I think it's really, there's some scenes, like every time they show water in this show, I get blown away because it's so blue and crystal and beautiful. It just you could take any scene from Rings of Power, from any episode, freeze frame it, and you've got like perfect desktop wallpaper for your PC. It's that great. Like when you use like the Amazon, and you're on Amazon and it starts showing like screensaver, like screenshots. I want them to start showing me Rings of Power screenshots, just because it's such a beautiful environment that they've created. And personally, I don't have any problem with the characters. I'm not one of those people that gets all hung up on like, the races of certain characters because to me, there was really nothing to go on. Tolkien didn't leave that much, and you can tell based off of what they're doing with this show. So who's to say that these interpretations of these characters are wrong, or it's not the characters. It's, to me, it's the era. I don't know where we are, so I'm having a hard time trying to reconcile it in my mind.
I'd like to say I understand your points there, Zod, but I kind of like prefer that it's kind of not like territory that's not completely explored by Tolkien. I feel like it gives more room for creativity. I do see it's like all over the place right now, but I think you're going to start to see. My guess is you're going to start to see it come together towards the second half of the season, because we're right at the mid.
Oh yeah,
I don't think this season we're going to see it all come together yet. Personally,
really?
I do understand what Zod's saying though.
Thank you so much, Hans. I was waiting. Like I said, I was waiting to talk to you because you are the biggest like Lord of the Rings, like Tolkien person that I know. So when it was like Rhea says, we're going to talk about this, I was excited to talk to you because I'm completely lost. And I thought I had a pretty good grasp on the lore, but I'm sitting here like, I don't know any of this stuff. This is weird to me. I don't know what's going on. Are they hobbits or halflings? What the hell are they? I don't know. I'm just like,
I actually love those characters.
I'm good. No, I don't have a problem with them. I just don't know what the hell they are. Part of me is thinking, oh my God, these are hobbits, right? These are the ancestors of the hobbits. But then I'm like, well, wait a minute. This is Second Age. There are no hobbits, right?
Yeah, it's the that's why they're calling them Harfoots. I think they put them in the show for viewer familiarity. I think that's like the only reason.
Then if you're just flying by the seat of your pants, then just call them hobbits.
Yeah, I think I do think they're a nice addition to the show. To be honest, I thought I was gonna hate them, but the whole show takes place in the Second Age, and they're doing a lot of time compression. So a lot of stuff that's happening now, like when Tolkien wrote it, some of these things happened very many years apart, but in order they don't want to make like one season just about like, oh, Celebrimbor building his tower and that's it, that's something they wouldn't be able to do.
That was one thing that I was really kind of struck by when I watched it, was like they had the scene where they showed them like the base of the tower was built, and they had like the crane, and they were like they had already started building, and I was like, oh shit, when did that happen? Like, they've just casually mentioned wanting to have the dwarves and elves collaborate on the tower in episode 2, and then we didn't see them in episode 3, and now the tower is like a third of the way done. It's like, oh,
well, they need to finish it by spring, so
It's true.
Sorry to interrupt everyone, and I love, and Zod, I've been wanting to call you. I love you, brother. I'm so happy to talk to you on the stream. But I got to get to bed. I this
was kind of late for you. I wanted to get here early, but I couldn't.
Yeah, I wanted to. When you got here, I stayed an extra 10-15 minutes, but I was about to head out right when you got here, and I was like, "Oh, Zod just got here." But I got to get to bed. It's like 2:30.
All right, well, we'll catch up later, Max. Thanks.
Later, Max.
Take it easy, Max.
All right, we'll talk soon. Bye. Cool. Yes. So, Zod, have you gotten a chance to catch up in the season, or are you still getting through some of the episodes left?
Well, I didn't see the most recent episode. There was an episode today, right? And they just
yes.
One up? Yeah. I haven't seen that yet.
Got it. So you're at least through episode 3.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So, go ahead, Hans.
I was gonna say, I think that Zod, when you watch this episode, I think you're gonna enjoy it more than the others. It's not as jumpy.
Okay, because that was something I was gonna mention. I was gonna mention the jumpiness, and I was gonna mention, and I wanted to ask you if it was just me, or if you really feel like the characterization of Galadriel is kind of off. Because I don't know about you, man, but I'm sitting there thinking this is not, maybe it's just because she's younger, but I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time with her, man. Like,
I get that. I think that it's for the time period they're trying to show Galadriel when she was in her younger years, not as wise, more. There was a time period where she was more reckless, so they're trying to show that more. I'm hoping that we see her develop more by the end of the season and see her maybe not as quick to anger, more rational thinking. But I think I like it so far. I don't think that she's probably. I don't want to say she's like my least favorite character, because I like all the characters. I like the mains, but I'm not as interested in her as a character as I am in like Elendil right now.
Like the halflings. Like for me, the halflings, if they would just call them hobbits, I would accept it and I would move forward, and I'd be like, okay, these are hobbits. We can like them, love them, and accept them as hobbits. That's awesome. And that's that. I mean, it's like, I feel like the biggest problem is that this series so far doesn't really want to commit to anything. It's kind of like it wants to, have heightened drama. It wants to be funny. It wants to be this. It wants to be that. It wants to be about, about fighting the good fight. It wants to have strong characters, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of spreading itself too thin, if that makes sense.
Can I offer a quick thought really quick before I forget? So this is supposed to be like thousands of years, like before the events of a Fellowship, right? Yes. And a lot of the events that we're seeing take place on screen, they're going to be like lost to legend and then eventually myth. So a lot of like what we're seeing, it eventually doesn't end up impacting the grander world beyond the thousands of years after they transpire, right? So I'm thinking like that, to Zod's point, that is a lot of room to I guess like storytell and be creative, but again, like I guess the execution is what is being criticized here, which is understandable.
Yeah.
I think that maybe, like, I don't know if I entirely agree with that assessment. I think that maybe a part of the reason why it feels like it's jumping around a lot is because there are just so many characters. Like, there are a lot of characters, and there are a lot of stories that they're trying to get to, so much so that sometimes they just have to cut whole sections of their plot out of episodes just so they can cram stuff in. So there's a lot going on. I think that, and this is kind of like where I was talking about as far as like comparing House of the Dragon to Rings of Power. I think that like the general vibe, the general aesthetic of Lord of the Rings is something that's it's I don't even know if I have a proper way to explain it, but it's not as a character. It's hard to say that it's not as character driven, but the moments, it's not really quite about character driven moments the way that like Game of Thrones is, where you would have two scenes of like, Brienne of Tarth and Jaime Lannister just having a really epic moment in a bathhouse. Then it's like, oh my God, these guys are great actors. This is the fantastic writing. There's so much, like, I'm getting so much from these characters and their development. I'm super invested in it. Like, so far in these episodes of Rings of Power, I haven't gotten anything like that from those characters. Like, they're not written to be like drama sponges, basically.
It's because right now they're making it up as they go along. Like, Devin, they have very little material for which to build. Like, I feel like they have, okay, I feel like what they have is skeletons of characters based off of Tolkien's like writings, and I like to joke and say it's his napkins, but essentially they have these skeletons to go off of, and they're trying to build fully fledged characters out of very little. And that this is why you haven't had those epic moments like what you're talking about with Game of Thrones. And this is why I kind of feel like Amazon would have been better served creating their own fantasy series from scratch and not
I don't agree with that.
Build off of Lord of the Rings, because
I still love this show. Like what they put on the screen, even like even if the acting was awful, which I don't think it is, and the characters were lousy, which I don't think
the acting is bad. I'm
just saying, like, even if those things were true, just the sheer awesomeness of the visuals alone would bring me to it.
The visuals is where all the money.
Yes,
and you can tell that every shot, like it's perfect. Again, for me, it's the water. I'm in love with the water. Every water scene in this series gets me excited. I'm like, wow, this is perfect. It would be like the most romantic thing in the world to just be able to walk through this water with somebody special. It's this kind of stuff that's keeping me drawn into the show. And then
I can understand that
having these conversations with you guys and with Rhea. But the idea is that, for me, I just want it to be more, because my expectations were so high for this when it was announced. And I remember that first stream that we were all on together, and we were talking about like the first trailers we seen, and there were articles written with like gorgeous screenshots, and we were debating, and we were saying, well, maybe this stuff is pre-visual, maybe this is, and when you see it all on the screen, you can clearly see again where all the money went, and that's great. So I'm not taking anything away from that. I want to see those epic moments between characters, like what you're talking about. That's my thing. Once they start doing that and start digging into the stakes of the story and giving us epic conversations, like the one line that really stood out to me was when Galadriel had said, and I believe this was in the first episode where she had used that line. She said, "Evil does not sleep. It waits." You remember that line? That line was used in another movie that I'm very, very fond of. And so I thought about that, and I'm like, but there's a certain epicness and a certain gravitas to that type of language. So when you say things like that, it gets people's attention. It makes them look at you and say, okay, yeah, we see what you're saying. We see what you're building towards.
Can I ask you something, Zod? Like, episode 2 is when they introduce the dwarves. And you had that, in my view, and I want to know your opinion about the scene. In my view, it was a great, great moment between Elrond and Durin. After they had their rock smashing competition, he was going to banish him. They're going up the elevator, and they have that back and forth where he's like, "You missed my wedding," and all that sort of stuff. Like, I personally thought that was the one instance in all of the show, in all 4 episodes to this point, where you had a Game of Thrones level, like, oh wow, there's real meat on the bones here.
That actually felt like a scene, like a proper scene. Because I was thinking about dwarves and hobbits and some scenes that happened later on in like Lord of the Rings when I was thinking about that. And I was thinking that that's what they were going for. They were going for a more Lord of the Rings-ish kind of moment. And so I agree with you. I think that, and thank you for reminding me about that scene, because so much of it to me, like I said, outside of the visuals is kind of a blur, because I don't feel like I'm fully invested yet. But I think, I'm going to listen to Hans' recommendation, because he has definitely been spot on about all of this. So when so I'm going to definitely watch, today's episode, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's right, if I end up liking that more than all the other episodes.
I was going to say, unless Ray has something to say real quick.
Oh, no, go ahead, Hans.
I was going to go back to your points where you said the show doesn't know if it's like trying to be funny or serious, dark. I think the way I'm looking at it is Elrond and Durin and the dwarves, that whole area of Middle Earth right now, they don't think or believe there's any kind of threat at all. Like they just don't. So it would make sense they're a lot more lax. They're a lot more relaxed. They're not. They think they're living in peace and peaceful times right now.
Well, that's the
Then
other
you
thing
go,
I don't really like, where we have, Galadriel being the one that seems to be saddled with the burden of doom and gloom throughout, and nobody else wants to believe. That's something else, Hans, that like really bothers me, because when I'm used to, like, I'm thinking of other Tolkien. I'm thinking of more established Tolkien. When Galadriel speaks, people listen. It's important when she opens her mouth and she has something to say. You don't just dismiss it as, you're just, it's almost like they're telling her, oh, you're just being paranoid. Don't worry. Everything's going to be okay. I'm just tired of hearing that. I mean, it's like at this point, take her word for it and move forward, because she knows what she's talking about. And this is the kind of thing that I know they're trying to build something. They're working towards something. But my thing is, I don't want her to be that character where she's constantly getting second guessed throughout the entire series. That to me is just like, because they're already trying to shape her into the character she'll already become, which is why I said before, I feel like she's a little bit off, because it just seems like, they want to give her that gravitas, they want to make her that character, but if nobody listens to her, it's kind of a moot point.
Yeah, and I think earlier... Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to add, like, I do find that she does have allies, her friend Elrond, her ally Halbrand, and Elendil. They trust her, and they know that her concerns are, founded in, real threats, but they're trying to work within her compulsion to just in state of urgency and say, like, look, like, we want to help you, but there are these blockers that we want to help you navigate, and it's just her.
She doesn't have time for blockers.
Yes, because like people are dying, like this. She's in a constant state of like heightened urgency that other people acknowledge and empathize with, but they are more like spatially aware of the blockers in their path more than she is, because she's again like a young colt trying to like bolt through every obstacle. Like that's an analogy someone made in the latest episode, by the way. But yeah, anyway, go ahead, Devin.
I lost what I thought I was gonna say.
Sorry.
No, worries. You're good.
Hans, did you have a thought?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think just the point of the show right now is that there's in every area of Middle Earth, everything's going in all different directions.
Yeah,
and that's why evil creeps up, because
that's what I was gonna
no one's
mention.
together.
So, like, to the point that Zod was making about Galadriel, it's she's kind of like the kid in a horror movie, right? Where she's like,
Yep.
"Oh, the monster's here," and then like all the parents are like, "Oh, shut up, kid, go to your room," and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
And they're seeding, excuse me, they're purposely seeding that frustration into the viewers. Like they want the viewers to feel frustrated because they know what Galadriel becomes. They know how powerful she is. They know what her word means, and they're seeing her basically infantilized in this world, like being dismissed, being forced into retirement, all this other sort of stuff. So like they're purposely trying to seed that frustration in us to develop for some other. It's gonna end up developing in some way that maybe we'll accept, maybe we won't. I don't know.
But then at that point, we're reminded that this literally takes place thousands of years before the events of Lord of the Rings. So it's kind of like a lot can happen in thousands of years.
Exactly. And you know what? Like the writers might take 1,000% full advantage of that. A whole lot could happen in these thousands of years. We'll have to wait to season 2 to see what happens. Like I kind of agree with Hans. I don't think any of these
I don't either
come together by the end of this season, but we'll probably start to see it, the start or the middle of next season. So
I was disturbed when I did some research and found out that Peter Jackson offered his services as consultant, and they never got back to him.
Yeah.
That's disturbing to me. It's like, how do you not take advice from the man that brought all the big Tolkien books to the screen, and those movies are beloved. How do you not? I mean, to me that was a mistake.
Maybe. I mean, I don't dislike the show or anything. I think the funny, just a quick aside, there was a thing that trended on Twitter last week where it was Tom Cruise, and I think the director for Top Gun Maverick was like pleading with people to turn motion smoothing off their TV. And I was like, oh wait, I think I actually might have it on my TV. Like I always forgot to look for how to turn it off, and I think my eyes just got used to it. But I Googled it and I learned I turned it off on my TV, and like instantly all these shows look way, way better. So like I'm looking, and I was like, I wonder. The first show I watched was like She-Hulk, because I wanted to see if the CGI looked a little better without motion smoothing, and it does. It does look a little bit better. And then I was like, I wonder what Rings of Power looks like. So I started watching that, and to me, it had a lot more of the look of the old films from like the early 2000s. Like there is a little bit of that vibe that I get from it, at least. And I don't know if it's just because if it's like a placebo effect. I know I'm watching a Lord of the Rings thing, so I kind of inject it myself. But I think that the show, in my view, it does a pretty good job of being like of paying, I guess, some kind of visual homage to the Peter Jackson trilogy.
Oh, again, nobody is arguing here that the visuals are not top notch. I think even the haters are saying how good it looks visually. So, I mean,
the orcs.
Yes,
the orcs
I believe
are
the music
incredible.
too. The score is actually pretty memorable too.
Score.
Yeah, and every character seems to have their own little like theme that plays like in different iterations during whatever scenes that they're interacting in. Arendir, the elf guard or whatever, or soldier for the human village, his theme comes to mind as well. Because it is sort of like very like melancholy, but like still beautiful and tragic at the same time. So that makes me think, oh, is this a tragic character? Probably. So, but yeah, Hans, did you have any things that you wanted to add to what Devin and Zod were saying?
No, I just think the orcs are perfect. The way they look are perfect. I love the way they interact with each other and the world around them. I think that if there's anything the show got like 100% dead on, is the orcs. I can't get over them. I love it.
Yeah, I was showing a clip of the warg, that huge like demon dog beast that attacked Arendir at the end of episode 3. I thought that looked pretty interesting. I feel like it was a little too cartoony. I could probably show the clip again, but
The
yeah,
CGI for that
like
dog was not right.
Yeah, something was a little off there. But yeah, I guess like any like Sauron theme is great. Yeah, so
I do like all the Sauron stuff that they're trying to do, because at one point I didn't think that they were going to have the rights to be able to use Sauron at all, because I thought a lot of the stuff that they got, it just seemed like they were, again, very, very limited with what they could, with the storylines that they could touch, with the characters that they could use. And I just thought that, and so now at this point, I'm half expecting to see maybe Gandalf show up next season. And I know that that's not supposed to happen. I know that probably won't happen, but I don't know. Hanz?
If one of the wizards show up in the show, honestly, I'll be very, very disappointed.
Yeah, like I'm telling you, second age. I mean, we're not talking about. Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, that's why, again, when I talk about like the halflings and stuff, it's like they're cool and all, but I think
it's
they're
like the
hobbits,
thing with the,
and I wish they would just commit to them being hobbits at this point.
The thing with the halflings is that it's possible they were around. There's just nothing written about them. No. But like when the wizards come to Middle Earth, there's a very important, specific reason they're sent that just wouldn't make sense. Like they would have no reason to right now.
I have a question for you, Hans.
Yeah.
Do you know? So obviously the writers were kind of hamstrung with what material they could and couldn't use. They worked with the Tolkien estate on things that they could use, but I guess I don't know what exactly did they not have the rights to, because the Tolkien estate has the rights to the Silmarillion, and they were working with the Tolkien estate, but they couldn't use the Silmarillion?
I think they had to use. I think what I read is that they had to use the appendices only.
Oh,
that's what I heard too. That they do not have the rights to the Silmarillion. They cannot use it, and that's why they had to do what they're doing now.
That's why they only did a quick little narration of the first stage, basically.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yes, that stab did look terrific, Chillmonger. But yeah, we are running a little late, but I appreciate y'all taking time to chat about your thoughts on the season so far. I definitely want to continue the conversation because I am really enthusiastic about where the show can potentially go, and hopefully we're still getting all those seasons we were promised for the show.
Oh, right. I have to ask you.
Yeah.
House of the Dragon or Rings of Power?
You're gonna put me on the spot.
Hey, you put me on the spot.
I know I did. So I'm going to steal parts of your answer and say it literally just depends on what I'm watching. Like when I'm watching House of the Dragon, I'm like, this show is cinema. Like, oh my gosh, like I can't wait to watch the next episode. And then I go and run to the next live stream that's like talking about it like immediately after the episode ends. Like, cause it's that compelling. It's like, it's the community like convo for me, like with House of the Dragon, because like these characters are, like, to y'all's points, are just so compelling, and they their interactions are what drive the fascination I have with that world. Not so much like the fantasy aspects. Like there are dragons and like and it's called House of the Dragon, but we don't really see that a whole lot of like, you know, like magic or fantasy or anything like that. So but it does capture my interest as far as like the interactions between the characters. And then what you were saying, Devin, about Rings of Power being like a total 180 to House of the Dragon. I get that emotional fulfillment from seeing these characters that I actually get to, like, you know, see progress and, you know, go through different trials and tribulations and emotional ups and downs and struggles and stuff like that. So I get attached to these characters, and, you know, the use of like the great music and themes for every character, as well as, you know, having these amazing visuals as well to like really like cement the different images of them going through different struggles to really have it resonate in me and, like, you know, make more of an impact and more of a memory and connection to these characters is why I am whenever I watch Rings of Power, I'm like, no, this is the greatest show ever. Like but yeah, they're both like emotionally satisfying for like different reasons. So that was my remix to your answer, basically.
Okay. I will say that like for Rings of Power, like, and I had an old filmmaker tell me this, like, remind me that like films and TV as it applies to that as well. Films are a visual medium, and the majesty and celestial levels of awe that Rings of Power puts on the screen, it can do a lot to kind of paper over like some what would otherwise be maybe somewhat remedial characters, right? Like if the show didn't look as good as it does and have like all these really awesome sweeping visuals and effects, the way that it looked when they went into Numenor, and like the swelling music with the statues and all that, if it didn't look awesome, then the show would probably feel like, you know, Legend of the Seeker. If anybody even remembers Legend of the Seeker.
I can't believe you just said Legend of the Seeker. I'm not even gonna comment on that, because when we talk about Legend of the Seeker, we're showing our age. So I'm gonna just. But for me, I have to say that it's hands down House of the Dragon. I mean, as beautiful as the visuals are for Rings of Power, I'm just not there yet story-wise to be able to say, okay, this actually competes with House of the Dragon on a compelling level, because it really doesn't. And I kind of feel bad that Rings of Power and House of the Dragon are airing at the same time, because all the comparisons that are happening, I think it's kind of unfair because, again, Amazon only had the appendices. They don't have a fully fledged story from George R.R. Martin like they got with House of the Dragon. So we're looking at something here where you're actually comparing apples to oranges, but because it has that, because it has I wouldn't even say a similar aesthetic. I would say it's more of like a close aesthetic, maybe, but not necessarily similar, because the cinematography is very different for both shows. So,
Hans, I do want to get your answer too, but then H. Bart's had this question. Do you think Christopher Tolkien was a bad influence on the estate? I believe he was.
Yeah, from my little bit of knowledge I have, he did some questionable things, but I think he just wanted to be able to branch out more. And I haven't seen House of the Dragon yet, so I can't give you my
Hans, come on,
comparison.
Man. Oh no!
I will say,
Hans, were you a fan of Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I loved it. It was great.
Okay, well, you should be watching House of the Dragon.
Yeah, I'll end up getting around to it.
The Lord of the Rings lore master has to devote all of his energy to Lord of the Rings.
I sympathize because again, this is the wealth of knowledge in our group here. Hans is the guy when it comes to Lord of the Rings lore. Period. So, well, maybe H. Bart's too, right? Hans and
H.
Bart's have a lot.
Yeah,
teamwork.
So teamwork.
I'm trying to be able to talk to him more about it. I'll say one thing about Rings of Power is a lot of people like me that know the story, like, there's a lot of things that I don't want to say about the show because now it's spoilers. Just because I know a lot of the stuff that's gonna happen and about to happen.
Not really though, Hans. They could go a different way because they're.
No, I don't think they will. Right now, one thing I'll say right now, in my opinion, Numenor has been absolutely perfect, and I want to live there. It's great. I love it.
Not for too long. Not for too. We want to visit. We want to visit there.
Devin, would you want to live there?
No. You need to watch episode 4. You need to watch the 4th episode.
Okay, I will. I'm gonna watch episode 4 for sure.
But like, it's just knowing how it's all gonna come together, and like, since I know how it's gonna come together, I'm very interested to see what they're gonna do to make it happen, and I'm very excited to see that.
This is definitely a combo that I want to continue into the coming weeks for every new episode. And I'm glad that we had this hour and a half long digest though, to get to this midpoint in the season. And then as the new episodes come out, hopefully I can be able to have more discussions of our thoughts on the series. And if we're caught off guard or any surprises or things like that come our way that are interesting that we can discuss too. H. Bart says, Hans was sent back to Earth to finish Rings of Power. He will watch House of the Dragon at the turn of the tide. Nice Gandalf reference there. But yes, it's been a long evening, so I'll go ahead and wrap it up here. We'll go around the horn. Devin, where can we find you at? And what are you going to be working on this week?
You can find me here or on Twitch, twitch.tv/Olde Nerdcast. I've started diving into an Elder Scrolls Oblivion playthrough, so I'm neck deep.
They're a lot of fun to watch.
Thank you.
A lot of fun to watch.
I appreciate that, I especially when I'm raging and smashing on my desk. But
you really rage that much?
Oh man, it can get bad sometimes. Like it's 0 to 60. It's 0 to 60. Anything can set me off. But then it's 60 to 0 right after. So But catch my playthroughs down there.
And ZodWriter, thank you so much for joining us for the discussion. Do you have any shows coming up this week?
Yes, actually,
that we can look forward to
tonight. Well, it would actually be because it is tomorrow. It's Friday. Tonight I will be interviewing on my late night Q&A live stream. I'll be interviewing Retro Nerd Girl to talk about the types of stuff that she does on her channel. So be looking for that. That's going to be exciting. She does a lot of in-depth movie reviews and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that show.
She is awesome. I love her her long form movie review content for sure.
Yes.
Like these 30-40 minute long deep dives.
Right. She'll take a movie she'll take an old movie from like the 80s and will go so far in depth. It'll be like watching the movie all over again. And a lot of times you'll end up liking her reviews more than you like the actual movie because of how in depth she actually goes. So that should be
awesome.
Awesome. Looking forward to that review, that interview with y'all. And last but not least, Hanz. What are you? I guess like since you don't do content necessarily, what are you watching right now, or what are you looking forward to seeing soon?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't really do much. I mean, I'm looking forward to more
Tolkien.
Power
What
episode.
else?
Yeah, more Tolkien. I've been re-listening to audiobooks when I go to bed.
The audio version of Lord of the Rings, of course, fully dramatized.
There's actually really good ones with like music and everything too. Actually, it's actually a lot of fun to listen to.
The BBC one from years ago, fully adapted, both The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
with music and sound effects and great acting, fantastic.
Awesome. But yeah.
Oh, quick question, Ray.
Yes.
Did you see the Woman King tonight?
I did. Yes. I really enjoyed it.
Thumbs down.
Yes. Thumbs up.
Okay.
It's not a perfect movie. But it was very. I think it told a successful like roller coaster epic of like the rise and like kind of like downfall a little bit, but then rise again of the protagonists, and it's very much an ensemble film. So yes, I would definitely recommend it. And I'm not gonna lie, there were a lot of times where I was comparing it to the sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, the Dora Milaje of Black Panther, but since I'm not too familiar with the Black Panther lore and that group, I was like, it was just sort of like a surface level comparison going into it, but that quickly went away. Like this is very much like its own film.
Okay.
And some weirdo like commented on my post saying like this movie promotes the slave trade, and I'm just like, you didn't watch the movie. Hide reply. Like I don't even like engage.
It's like all these people complaining about Little Mermaid now. It's like it's all just white noise.
Hide reply.
I think
it's white noise.
I think that we should accept things with flaws, because even things with many flaws that anger us can be enjoyed just as much as it angers us. And I know Devin knows what that's like playing Oblivion. So
yes.
So H-Bars, not to get into too many spoilers, but again, I don't know like the historical accuracy of the film. I just went into it because I like the actors in it. But yeah, like I can't vouch on like the historical accuracy of it, to be totally honest. I just enjoyed it as like its own film, but that is something I could look into though. But anyway, slight detour from that, but like we'll go ahead and wrap it up. And yeah, thank y'all so much for being on the panel. This has been a great discussion. I'm looking forward to having more with y'all. And thank you to the audience for tuning in as well for this late night stream. I'll go ahead and play the outro, and I'll catch y'all later. All right, take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.